unless you got something else. I don't care. Um, about Joe Biden and these classified docs and how like it's just hilarious because the Dems were just like Trump and these classified documents and blah blah
Yeah,
blah blah. And it's just like, well, actually, Joe had them too, and blah 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 blah. Like, I just want to talk about that, like,
yeah, yeah,
just
yeah.
all the stuff around it, and then we can talk about Sundance because I think there's a lot of
Yeah.
interesting things.
I dropped a new podcast today.
Oh shit!
Um,
Hell yeah!
it's called Shoot the Messenger. Let me share you guys the thing. And maybe we can put it in the link description. But
Yes,
it's basically about this Israeli company that does this spyware software called Pegasus that like it's like a virus that gets in your phone and they can literally like do anything with your phone. Like they can turn it on, they can turn on the
I've heard
camera,
of this.
watch you.
I've heard of this.
Pegasus. Yeah.
Pegasus scandal or like shit before.
Yeah. And it
Is it shoot the messenger or don't shoot the messenger?
shoot the messenger. I just put the link in the chat. It's
Oh,
in
okay,
my
okay, okay,
Twitter.
okay. Okay,
Um
got you. Okay. Podcast.
and
Okay, I'm about to subscribe right now.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, you about to have
And
sod all up in your ass, boy. You better
I
relax.
know, I know, I know, and the Saudis and shit. But it's like so Jamal Khashoggi, like what was discovered later was that like every like his wife and like a bunch of his friends had Pegasus on their phone that they used
Jesus
Pegasus to like
Christ.
track them.
Woo, Lord have mercy. Do
Yeah,
not fuck with the Saudis.
yeah,
All right, yeah, yeah, hell yeah, that's perfect. We'll talk about that, your new podcast, and then get into your Sundance excursion and then just keep it pushing.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right. I'm ready when you are.
Ready?
All right. One, two, three. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the latest edition of the Woke Bros. Of course, I'm your co-host, Big Waz, aka Wazi Lambre, and I'm joined by my brother. He's back, ladies and gentlemen. Our guy, Nando Vila. What's going on, bro?
Just feeling good. Just got off the slopes in Park City, Utah. You know, Vinny chasing the boys. We were hanging out. You know, having some drinks, yelling at Harvey Weinstein. It was great.
That is awesome. Nando just came back from Sundance Film Festival. He's a big shot Hollywood producer, so he has to go hobnob over there in Sundance. I'm actually going to Salt Lake City, which obviously
Nice.
isn't Park City, but I'm going to Salt Lake City for the NBA All-Star game in a few
Shit.
weeks. My first time ever in Salt Lake City. My first time ever traveling for an NBA All-Star game. The only All Stars that I've experienced were New York and LA, but I lived in those cities at the time that the events were
Yeah.
being hosted there. And so this would be my first time traveling for work and all of that for All Star. So we should be
Nice.
having a good time. Today's show, we're going to get into all of the stuff, all of the hobnobbing, the celebs that Nando ran into, and all of that stuff in Park City. Also, you guys should be excited to know Nando just launched a brand new podcast project called Shoot the Messenger. We're going to get into what that's about. It's super fascinating in the world of geopolitics and tech and all of those crazy things. But first, Nando, I just wanted to talk about this Joe Biden classified documents
Mm.
thing. Because you'll remember, it was discovered that Trump was hoarding a whole cache of documents at Mar-a-Lago. It was this big deal. Like, how could you
Yeah.
not give up your documents after leaving the White House? And this is gonna be how the Dems get him to not run in 2024. And it's just an atrocity. These are state secrets. You're supposed to be handling them so meticulously, and it's gonna be Trump is he's just bad
Yeah.
for doing this. This is horrible. Lo and behold, Nando, it comes out.
Brandon. Brandon had the secret
Brandon,
document.
Brandon also kept his secret documents from his tenure during the Obama presidency, his tenure as vice president. They searched Mike Pence, found some documents on him. So this feels like I would have a hard time believing Barry did this because he's such a stickler for the freaking rules and he's so like meticulous about keeping his nose
Yeah.
clean on this kind of thing. Like, you're not gonna get me on a technicality kind of
No.
thing. So I would be shocked if Barry had it. But the idea that Biden and Pence and especially Trump would be doing this doesn't surprise me at all. What came to your mind when you see this story unfolding
Well,
this way?
it was just like it's the perfect kind of story because, you know, the Dems, when Trump did something like this, like, you know, I'm just you could hear the Barry voice going like, "Look, this is not who we are." You know, you know, it turns out it's exactly who you are. And like the Trump thing was way overblown at the time, just because like everything with Trump is that it's a kind of a cycle with Trump stories of like, oh my God, this is it. This is dangerous, Donnie. He's going to prison this time, folks. You know, he really crossed the line this time. And then look, it turns out like, no, it wasn't that big of a deal and nothing really happened. And, you know, the, the, the sort of thing that came to mind was like, this just goes to show just obviously the liberal hypocrisy, which is, you know, nothing new, and
Abundant and never
we love
ending
to
and
we love
yeah,
to yeah, we love it, folks. And but the other thing is that like the the amount of classified documents has exploded since 9/11.
of
Like
course.
pre 9/11, the if it was like a classified document, there's a good chance it was actually like, you know, some secret shit, you know?
Right.
And but since 9/11, they basically like have expanded the top secret thing and the classified thing to just include like all kinds of shit, you know? So it's not just because something is classified doesn't mean it actually is sensitive information or like, you know,
Right.
the whereabouts of some fucking spy undercover in wherever, you know
In
what I mean? Like
Saudi
that's not
Arabia or Iran
yeah.
or something. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like that. So they must keep these papers for whatever fucking bullshit reason. Like I don't really know what it is, but it's not like it's a big deal. It wasn't a big deal when Trump did it. You know, I remember thinking like, what if he gave away the nuclear football and all that stuff? And it's like, shut the fuck up. Like you just shut the fuck up. Just shut the fuck up.
I love your limited impersonation of stock liberal person.
Yeah.
I love
Can you
that
believe it?
idea.
Yeah.
And you know what you just said is beautiful. In that like people don't even think about what might or might not be considered to be classified again. And I will say this a million times. It's my opinion that stuff like Top Gun and the Born Identity series and all of that is deep state propaganda. These
Yeah.
motherfuckers ain't that smart. They can't fight this well. They're not
No.
this competent. They want us to think that just on the cutting edge of everything. I refuse to believe that, right? But when you watch
Dude, they
the
all think they have fucking Havana syndrome.
exactly
Like you might fucking know Jason Bourne having fucking Havana syndrome,
yeah,
you
not
know?
gonna
Like
happen. Not gonna
yeah.
happen, right? And so when we watch media, because that's all we can go off of is like entertainment media based on the deep state and based on the idea of what information reaches a certain classification, right? Like they always pump it up about like it's like 24 type shit
Yeah.
essentially, right? Which makes me think like it's nothing like that at all. But you know, I think the a conversation that we're not going to be having is like as Americans, we're not going to have a conversation about government secrets. Do we need them? Why do we need them to this extent? Who's being served by this apparatus ultimately? How about if we I was talking to John on TYT the other day. If Americans en masse decided we want to know everything, it couldn't even happen.
No.
Like
It's just
it
another way in which we don't live in a democracy, right?
exactly. It literally could not happen. If you go back and read the origins of the
Yeah.
CIA,
If 300 million Americans
yeah,
decided,
if all of us were like, fuck that,
yeah,
we're done with classification, just let us know. Give us all the Kennedy shit, UFOs,
the
give us
alien
everything.
shit,
We
yeah.
know everything. We want to know every single atrocity the CIA has ever committed, you know, whatever, you name it. Bring it out. We're all in one accord on this. We don't care about what it means for our national security. We're taking our future into our own hands. Let this stuff go. Couldn't happen. It literally we couldn't do it. You know, and nobody even talks about that part. That's the part that like we just take a lot of this crazy shit for granted that we have this massive secret state.
Yeah. Yeah, we're just used to it. Like it is just like, I mean, you said perfectly that if everyone decided to do it, they wouldn't let us. The idea, just the very presence of it, the very presence of a secret intelligence service, of which the budget of it is secret, for example, um,
Bro,
of which
unlimited budget, unlimited resources, and no accountability. What could go wrong, Nando?
but that's just fundamentally at odds with with democracy, right? Like it's just like we have to just like admit that we just don't live in a democracy, right? We
Yeah.
just don't. Like if the presence of these intelligence services are fundamentally the proof, you don't need further proof, right? Like when the whole Snowden thing was going down, I remember I used to have tons of fight with people because I was a big supporter of Ed Snowden.
Me too. Me
Still
too.
am a
Me
big
too.
supporter of
I
Ed
thought that
Snowden.
was the greatest revelation like of my life.
Oh yeah,
Honestly.
it's like he'll like hundreds of years from now, like he'll be canonized as a saint and whatever. Like all these like fucking libs who are like, "Nee, Russia," shut up. Um, I would get in arguments with people, and they were like, "Well, if you have nothing to hide,
That's
like
crazy.
what
That
the
is
fuck are you worried about?"
crazy.
And I'm like, dude, that is so insane. First of all, like they get people all the time for shit that's not,
Hold on. First,
illegal.
you know why that's stupid? Because it assumes that the only person that would want to do it are benevolent law enforcement. Let's just say you worked for, I don't know, JP Morgan Chase, and they were committing some massive fraud. You don't think they could buy your shit? You don't
Yeah,
think your shit is for sale, bro? It's sitting somewhere on some server. Every single phone call, every single time you whacked off, every single thing that you've ever done,
dude.
sitting on some server in Utah somewhere. You don't think JP Morgan, let's just say that you wanted to go to war against JP Morgan, you individual. You didn't break no laws. You want to take them down. What are you talking about? What
You
are
know,
you
like, well, it was revealed that, people like Angela Merkel and Lula were under surveillance. Like, what were they doing? Like, did the US consider them criminals? Like, no, they were
Bruh.
spying on them for other reasons. You know, like they weren't worried about their fucking national
Bruh,
security,
and the
like
thing
because
is,
of like what Angela Merkel's gonna do.
if the government has the capability, so does private business.
Yeah,
Like that's just what it is, bro. Like these people, like the government is these folks lackeys. So like the moneyed interest, like you keep thinking like, well, these politicians who we hold accountable and blah 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 blah. Bro, if the money involved in this and they want to use it for nefarious reasons, you're done. You
yeah,
are done. The fact that it exists as an idea, as a program at all, unchecked in the way that they just log all of our shit and just keep
yeah.
it for safekeeping. And people think like, oh, well, if I never do nothing wrong, then who can like that's insane. Like, and of course, like the Snowden thing makes you so hopeless because it's like it's all there.
Yeah.
All his leaks, all the information he gave you was like, yo, we're getting fucked. This stuff they're
And
doing is
just the
illegal.
reaction to him was what like really made me lose hope, right?
Yeah.
Like it was like, man, they're focusing on him. He's the bad guy all of a sudden. It's like, oh my god, like look what we just discovered. Like, like you're focused on this fucking guy. Like it was just so distressing and still is. I mean, the fact that he's still having to live in exile in Russia of all places,
Yeah,
especially these days, like it's
and
fucking
it's right. His act didn't even have any freaking effects on these folks. I think,
no,
I think the government has gotten a little bit, they've become more conscious of information gathering from the tech giants, right? And so they're just like, all right, I mean, some of this shit is a little egregious, and they try to get involved with the, all of the companies following your browser around the internet and collecting info and all of that shit. But and then also it turns out that none of that shit even matters for ad sales. It's just like all you got to do is like get a list of the people who buy shit online and just keep selling stuff to them. Like none of their demographic information,
no,
none of this other stuff
no.
matters. You just need
Just
to
where they
know
click,
that
where they
this
click.
just did they buy something? Okay, yeah, let's
Yeah,
sell stuff to them. But yeah, and then it's like the deep state stuff gets me, especially as the way it's presented in the media, especially mainstream media. When you just think about the invention of the CIA, which comes out of the OSS in World War II, which was our rinky-dink intelligence gathering operation from World War II, which, I remember I read this book about the CIA's origin, and it was just like, yo, these guys were fucking pathetic. Like, because America was so new on the world stage, is like mattering as a world power, their spy agency was like 3 years old, and like Great Britain's and Russia's was like hundreds of years old. Like, these people had been developing spycraft for hundreds of years when we started our shit. And so we were just painfully inept. All kinds of atrocities committed by these schmucks. And then, like the whatever, that's one part of it. But what's most important is like, we didn't take a vote on this shit. I mean, collectively as a country, our betters, our leaders, our masters decided unilaterally that we now have a secret government, and it just was. Period.
Yeah. I always say that to understand American politics and to understand, really the failure of American democracy, you have to understand the 1970s. Because in the 1970s is when we discovered most of what the CIA was up to, with something called the Church Committee, thanks to a journalist named Seymour Hersh, who basically exposed a lot of what the CIA was up to. Like, one of the great investigative journalists ever. He broke the My Lai massacre. He broke, tons of stories in the 70s. He broke a series of stories on MK Ultra. The CIA was like literally using LSD to create fucking, Manchurian assassins and to like wipe people's memory and shit. And they had something called the Church Committee, which was a congressional investigation into the CIA. And there was genuine outrage and genuinely a moment of like that. Maybe there was legit, like, mainstream liberals were talking about maybe like abolishing the CIA. Like, this was a relatively mainstream position. It wasn't the fucking bearded guy on the corner going, "Man, it's the CIA, man." Like it was like a pretty normie lib position. It was like, no, we should maybe dismantle this thing. It's kind of gotten out of hand. And like so many things in America, like they got close. And then there was the sort of right-wing reaction and Reaganism and all of that, due to the failures of the libs and all that good stuff, like all the, that and Jimmy Carter and all that shit. But like once Reagan got in there, it was over. It was like, guys, we're just gonna move on. We're just not gonna think about it. It was like almost like the country kind of went to sleep or turned into children. Like, like we want this like sunny, like let's just like think about happy things and not have to like confront the nasty things. But there was a moment when that was a possibility.
They almost got, man, they almost got ended for 9/11 too, because people just blamed everything on them. And they were legitimately talking about like slashing CIA budgets and all of that shit, because everybody was just like, this is your job. This is your one job.
One job.
This is your one
a bunch of fucking
job,
guys,
bro.
bunch of fucking mountain folk from fucking the middle of nowhere were able to fucking trick you, know?
And they weaseled and squirmed their way out of 9/11, but like they almost got disbanded for that because it was such a colossal fuck up and it just didn't happen. But yeah, we say all of this to say is that we can't even have an honest conversation about what these materials are. That Joe Biden and Donald Trump, like nobody, they can't even tell, like they can't tell us. Like there's no way to compare to be like, well, this
would be hilarious if it was just like, innocuous, like, funny shit, like
I was saying, what if it's like the White House's gumbo recipe?
Yeah, like Brandon just like really liked the gumbo, because he wanted to keep it, like Brandon's just like, what, Jack, that's the best gumbo I've ever had in my life.
But again, there's no way to know. It's not as if anybody's gonna come out and be like, this is exactly what Trump had in his possession, this is what Pence had, this is what Biden had. It's all classified, and so everybody can play the game. I'm just like, please, it wasn't even that serious what I had. Everybody can play that game. So the libs might come out, because Pelosi's even tried to float it out there like, well, there's a difference between hoarding it and giving the FBI a hard time and a guy who just complied and blah, 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 and this and that. And it like trying to make like some kind of classification between the two. It's like, bro, you can't even tell us what's in there. Yeah. So Trump can say whatever he wants about what he hoarded, and so can Biden, so can Pence, on and on and on. And so that's why I'm over this as an idea that it's an issue.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, we move on from the deep state of America to the deep state in the Middle East, man. I feel like these guys are actually scarier than the CIA, even though they're not as well funded. They're way savvier, way better, and way more ruthless. Talk to us about your new podcast, Nando.
Yeah, man, it's called Shoot the Messenger. We've been working on it like with a team for about 2 years now. Long investigation. I work with my colleague Rose Reed, um, and this batch of episodes deals with a bit of technology called Pegasus spyware, and it comes from an Israeli company called NSO Group, a legit, not like a cartel or anything like that. It's a legit kind of company that is legal and all that stuff. And what they do is like they nominally work with governments to use this technology to fight crime or terrorism. Right? That's the official kind of pitch: is that a government can hire them
Allegedly.
for a few $1,000. They can basically hack into anyone's phone and do whatever the fuck they want with that phone. They can turn on the microphone and hear what you're saying, in private, even if your phone is off. They can turn on the camera and look at whatever you're doing, even when you don't have the camera on. They can see all your keystrokes, see all of your browse, like everything. They just have every full access and control, more importantly, of your phone. Right? It's the most sophisticated spyware there is. And you think like, oh, okay, well, whatever, they're just fighting terrorists. Well, it turns out that the Jamal Khashoggi murder at the Saudi consulate in Istanbul, subsequent investigations have revealed that basically, like, a bunch of his cohort, including his wife and including his best friend, all had Pegasus on their phones. This was discovered later by a company called Citizen Lab, which is a kind of a nonprofit citizens advocacy group for digital privacy and things like that. So they have like these forensic experts that can look into your phone and see what's been on it. And it turns out that, yeah, Jamal Khashoggi's inner circle was being spied on by the Gulf states, and and that's how they knew like all of his movements, like what he was up to, where he was at any given moment, his communication with his loved ones and all that stuff. It's just an incredibly distressing thing. And then, in our reporting, just like a ton of journalists and activists, like, people who aren't fucking terrorists are getting targeted by Pegasus. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
it's this really wild thing. Like, and again, like I said, it's a completely legal company. It's completely legit. It isn't like some shadowy criminal organization that you have to like go in the dark web to contact. Basically, they can use it, and it's one of those like kind of really distressing things about the modern world, because like, I mean, think about how much we do on our phones. It's not that hard to get into it. It's just really not that hard. So yeah, I hope everyone checks it out.
Yeah, go get that wherever you get your podcast. How did you guys first discover this as a thing that was happening?
So we've been working with a organization called the Committee to Protect Journalists. Our chairman at my studio is on the board of the Committee to Protect Journalists. It's like something that's very important to him. And originally, we were going to do this kind of show that really just did profile journalists who are under attack in some way, shape, or form. Like just in different parts of the world. And as we were working on it, we kind of really focused on this Pegasus story, because we see it as, as governments are becoming savvier, and you can't just like these days, like, it's really hard to just like imprison a journalist. You know what I mean? There's just too much
Right.
like public outcry, and
Yeah.
like, you don't want to do that. You know what I mean? So, but the best way you can do is kind of, and essentially, like, just know what they're doing, know what they're up to, like ruin their reputations,
Yep.
or gaslight them, make them go like a little crazy. You know what I mean? That's kind of the new frontier of repression. And it's not just journalists. I mean, it's like I said, any activist or union leader, things like that. Like,
Mhm.
if you're in any way like a public figure or in any way challenging the status quo, like, you really got to educate yourself on how you use your electronic devices and how you protect yourself. And you know it just really is kind of the new frontier for any sort of nefarious activity. So yeah, it's quite a thing.
Yeah, at least in other places, I still feel hope that the people on the ground getting information about what the people in charge are doing will actually cause some kind of civil unrest. I'm past the point that meaningful civil unrest can happen here in America in a way that like something profound can happen.
Yeah,
I mean, just look at George Floyd, for instance, right? Like
yeah,
that was meaningful. That was real. People were
yeah. It was like an
legitimately
uprising. Yeah,
moved by that, right? Then what? It just gets co-opted by the money power. A couple of people get some nice jobs out of it, and we move on with our lives. Nothing is meaningfully changed from that uprising happening in here in America. It's like it's hard. Like I don't even know what people would have to take away. Football, possibly.
yeah,
I could see
yeah,
that causing a
yeah,
major uprising, but like, what would be the thing? Because the lack of faith in damn near any and all institution is so palpable in the sense that what are we gonna say about our nasty, horrible government that people aren't gonna just shrug their shoulders like, yeah. But in other
yeah,
places, man, like people legitimately don't know what's going on, and people are way more radical about their lives and their conditions than we are here in America. And so this is super important work, man.
yeah. I know, and like you talk about we talk about this all the time that if you want any meaningful change, I mean, then the George Floyd is a good example of it. Like you ultimately fundamentally have to like challenge capital and like the balance of power between labor and capital and all that stuff. Look at the tools that capital has at their disposal.
It's crazy, man.
Like,
It's crazy.
you know,
I
like
was
they
watching
know about the activist meeting before it even fucking happens. You know what I
I
mean? Like,
bro, I was watching dog. I was watching an interview. I forgot who Cornell West was talking to, and it was smack dab in the middle of the George Floyd stuff. And obviously, Cornell West shares most, if not all, of our politics, right? Like we
yeah,
are
yeah,
in line with brother Cornell West. That's
yep,
100%. And he was like, "Look, man, like I'm heartened by seeing these people." On the streets, but it's like it's hard for me to believe that any meaningful change is going to come of this. And he said, "But you know who's going to benefit? That black bourgeoisie. Oh, they gonna get
yeah,
some great jobs out of this one. Oh, he was so on point, bro. He was like the
yeah,
only people that are gonna benefit are people who are adjacent to the money power, where they could be like, look at what we did when we got this black woman XYZ CFO blah 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 blah, and George Floyd made us do it. Meanwhile the people on the ground's lives are not impacted by those kinds of decisions at all. And again, the people who are most proximate to that money and that power are black people who are already doing well for themselves. Okay,
yeah,
the people in position to get these George Floyd givebacks are people who are already doing well. It's not struggling single mothers who are getting the benefits of whatever George Floyd's horrible incident, the murder of George Floyd, whatever good that may have come from it. They're not proximate enough to the people that can make it right that they will receive any of that, right?
yeah. No, I just sent you a great like what you were talking about. Like I just sent you a great link. Like one of the the things that we've gotten out of the latest kind of radical is like land like indigenous land acknowledgement from Raytheon.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my Lord, have mercy. At Raytheon, indigenous inclusion is about knowing you belong. At fucking Raytheon. All right. Yeah, that's all you need to know. All right, before we get out of here, man, give us some highlights from Park City, bro.
Man,
Sundance.
it's fucking fun, dude. It is fucking fun. We got to go next year, Waz. You should not miss
Yeah,
that
let's
shit.
look into it. Absolutely. For
Yeah,
sure.
it is fucking fun. I mean, it is like it's kind of the official start of the Hollywood year, if that makes sense. It's always in
Okay.
January.
Got you.
Everyone's feeling good. Everyone's feeling excited. It really is nominally it's a festival about celebrating independent film and trying to find new talent and like there's a
Yeah, of
million stories of people who came out of Sundance and
course.
then like Ryan Coogler and Chloe Zhao or whatever. Like
People who
they
we
all
love.
yeah, they all came out of Sundance, and there's this like excitement in the air because again, it's the beginning of the year. Everyone's got fresh budgets. Like they still haven't gotten their ass kicked for the whole, like just in terms of like bad news and all that stuff. And then it's in Park City, which is fucking beautiful. And then there's just like a ton of fun parties. Like everyone in the industry is there. Like it's so small that you're just like milling around with, you know, very powerful executives, but then also like celebrities. Like I don't know, like Bella Thorne was like standing next to me.
Love that.
I bumped into James Gandolfini's son. I was like, oh hey, sorry. You know,
Wow,
like
licorice pizza, not licorice pizza. What am I saying?
nah,
The Deuce,
yeah, the
the
Deuce
Deuce.
and the something of Newark, the Many Saints of Newark.
Many Saints of
Uh,
Newark. Licorice Pizza is what's his name? Philip Seymour
Philip
Hoffman's
Seymour
kid.
Hoffman's
Yeah,
kid. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, man. Jonathan Major, I saw running around. You know, he had a film there called Magazine Dreams about he plays a bodybuilder. And
oh, that's why
no,
he's been
man.
so diesel and
So
buff
yoked.
lately.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
got you.
yeah, yeah. And then he's also in the new Creed, where he also had to get. So I think he just
Nice.
like double booked his like,
Yeah, yeah. He
you
was
know,
like, yeah, let's just knock him out back to back. We good.
yeah, yeah. Saw some good movies, man. I saw this Mexican one that fucking blew me away. It was called Heroic. It's a guy I'd never heard of, and I work in this fucking industry. And
Mm,
he did a movie about that's basically like a Mexican Full Metal Jacket about
wow,
a new cadet group of new cadets who join the Mexican military, and then basically like have to deal with like these psychotic officers who are just fucking trying to break them
got you.
and
Private Pile.
Private Pile,
What a great movie.
the Joker, all that good stuff. So yeah, man, highly recommend it if anyone could go out to Sundance. I mean, I've been twice, both times I've had a fucking blast. And yeah, next year we got to go. We got to do the official Woke Bros
All right, yeah,
Sundance
we're doing
episode.
it next year. We're putting it on the calendar. We're gonna do Sundance in January of next year. Lock that in. So that's our show for today, folks. Make sure you become a Patreon, patreon.com/count the dings. That's a cup of Starbucks per month to support the amazing content that we're doing. Shouts to John Gervais on the ones and twos, keeping the trains running on time. We will see you guys next week. Peace.
Later.